Well, it is a busy news day today, and moments ago we saw the former President Donald Trump walking back into his New York criminal trial, and they are resuming at this time after a very short break. It's the former lawyer now who'll get a cross-examination by defense attorneys. That lawyer represents the former sex film worker, Stormy Daniels. And that former lawyer is going to take the stand for cross-examination, as I mentioned, by the defense. And earlier today, both sides, the defense and the prosecution, were arguing if Trump committed more gag order violations. Prosecution says there were 4 additional ones. They're not asking for jail time this time. Well, how generous are they? Because that would be just a gift to a Republican candidate running for the White House, Donald Trump, right? Because it would put him right in a spot where the optics of that would be horrible if it ever happened. So we are all over it, stem to stern. We're getting moment-by-moment updates that we will share with you in real time from our producers and journalists who are inside the courtroom. First, though, let's get new reaction from President Biden on the violent anti-Israel protests, the Jewish hate that is sweeping across college campuses in America. He says dissent is a key part of our American democracy. However, that dissent should never lead to disorder that we've been seeing.
We've all seen the images, and they put to the test 2 fundamental American principles. The first is the right to free speech and for people to peacefully assemble and make their voices heard. The second is the rule of law. Both must be upheld. So let me be clear. Peaceful protest in America. Violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is. It's against the law when violence occurs. Destroying property is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Vandalism, trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations. None of this is a peaceful protest. Threatening people, intimidating people, instilling fear in people is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. There should be no place on any campus, no place in America for anti-Semitism or threats of violence against Jewish students. There is no place for hate speech or violence of any kind, whether it's anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or discrimination against Arab Americans or Palestinian Americans. It's simply wrong. There's no place for racism in America. It's all wrong. It's un-American. I understand people have strong feelings and deep convictions. In America, we respect the right and protect the right for them to express that. But it doesn't mean anything goes. It needs to be done without violence, without destruction, without hate, and within the law.
We wanted to give you those hour-ago comments that we took live during the Faulkner Focus so that we can really get into what was there and what might be missing. This is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner, here with my co-hosts Kayleigh McEnany and Emily Campagno. Also joining us today, Fox News contributor and former State Department spokesperson Marie Harf, Fox business anchor David Asman. David, I'm going to start with you about what we heard and what you feel may be missing. By the way, he didn't take any questions. He spun on his heels and walked right out the door.
That's what I was going to say was missing. Some sort of dialogue between the president. This is one of those moments, I think you'll agree, Kayleigh, when it's really important for the president to play the role that you played, to have a dialogue with the press who were there to ask the questions that Americans have. I had no problem with what he said. I thought what he said was well phrased. I thought he delivered it in a straight fashion. But why was it so late? I mean, this is something that's been going on. How much of what we've seen over the past 48 hours, if not the past week, could have been prevented had he said that earlier. But again, I mean, I don't want to bury a good statement, which is what that was. It was read, though, and there wasn't that dialogue. That's what I think was missing.
Well, and I'm glad we started off with, mostly his full comments.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important for everybody to kind of keep seeing it and digesting that, because we may not get another nugget for 9 days. We don't know. Emily?
Right. I think it was a little too late. However, I appreciated that he acknowledged that even vandalism, even property destruction, even threats, that all of those things are not only criminal, but that they are not peaceful protests. And I really appreciated that he delineated for everyone who has been saying this entire time, oh, they're peaceful. No, they are not. They are anything but. That if you sit there cross-legged in the middle of grass and yet you are holding a sign that is calling for the extermination of the Jewish people in some veiled way, yes, that is violent. So I appreciated that. And I also just have to point out the drama and the joke that is these outside agitators that are coming in and then requesting a laundry list of items that isn't just, you know, food and water like we saw the plaintiff students at Columbia doing, but they are asking for utility gloves and zip ties and skateboard helmets and no bagels, please, and no bananas, but yes, we want this. It would be laughable if, again, it wasn't violent, that these people are thinking that we are going to somehow acknowledge and therefore like provide their Santa wish list and ignore that they are calling for the death of an entire group of people. I mean, it's a joke to me, and I hope these campuses come out and acknowledge that part of it too.
So I just want to follow up quickly with you, Emily, because you make such a good point. I mean, in some instances, they're calling for the death of Jews on their campuses and widely. But they're not calling for the life of Palestinians, which is what I thought all of this was about. Are they taking the food that they accumulate to Rafah? Because I want to know, these are some of the most privileged people on the planet. And if they're not paying for it, Biden's going to pay for it through student loans. So I'm really curious to know
which means we're paying for it.
Yeah, which means we're paying for it. I mean, you bring up the death. I want to talk about the life. None of it really has anything to do with what they're doing that's helpful to anybody. Marie, you know, the one question I had was why the president didn't lean in on calling on these universities, particularly the private ones that have the policies to do this, to suspend and expel, to go through their roster and see who has a foreign visa to be here and to put them on a list for deportation for actions that violate policy, that violate laws. Well, clearly they're violating laws because they're getting arrested.
Harris, I thought what was interesting, he didn't take questions, you're right, but he did get two shouted questions that he answered at the end. And I want to mention those because I think they're very interesting. One is they asked if he would change his policy towards Israel because of the protest, and he said no. You know, Biden is getting a lot of pressure from parts of his political constituency over this issue. He has squarely stood by Israel. He keeps getting more and more aid to them. He's standing up for them in the international community. And that was an interesting answer to me, that he said no. You know, he believes this deeply. He is a Democrat of a generation and a certain political bent that really believes this, Harris. And the second question was about whether the National Guard should go in. He also said no. So I think that he struck a really good tone in this statement, delineating, as Emily said, between the different kinds of protests. I think, you know, it's also up to each university and each city and each state to figure out how to deal with this themselves. I think Biden being too forceful on that is maybe, when each of them are trying to navigate this in different ways, is maybe not the most helpful thing to do. I think what he did say was helpful, though.
I want to get to this, Kayleigh, before I come to you. Earlier today, before the president spoke, former President Trump had words about the anti-Israel protesting unfolding.
I will comment just quickly on the colleges and universities. It's a shame. I'm so proud of the New York's finest. They're great people too. I know so many of them. They're incredible. They did a job at Columbia, and likewise in Los Angeles, they did a really good job at UCLA. It was very much embedded. And just so you understand, this is the radical left. This is a movement from the left, not from the right. The right is not your problem, despite what law enforcement likes to say. The FBI director said that he worries about the right. No, don't worry about the right. The right's fine. Worry about the left, because this is a movement from the left. These are radical left lunatics. And they got to be stopped now, because it's going to go on, and it's going to get worse and worse. And, you know, they take over countries, okay? And we're not letting them take over the USA. We're not letting the radical left morons take over this country. You can't let that happen.
So it's a political issue in the presidential campaigns now.
Yeah, bingo. Okay, stop talking to me about the right and anti-Semitism. This is a problem of the left. Joe Biden hails from the left. He is a Democrat president. I'm sorry, but I give him no credit today. Zero credit today. I like to give Biden credit when credit's due. Not today. April 22nd is the last time you spoke about this. Well, why did you speak today is the question. Here's what I postulate. Axios put out a piece yesterday. Democrats are petrified about this issue. They asked a Democrat lawmaker, are you worried about this issue? How could we not be, right? Does it give you political heartburn? How could you not be, right? So Biden speaks today because politically the moment demanded it. But what did he have time to do over the last 9 days? Take issue with the effort of Florida to protect unborn babies. He went to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He did a campaign event in D.C. He did a campaign event in Delaware. He found time for all that. He even went on Howard Stern. He found all the time in the world for that. But he couldn't speak out about this. You don't get credit for that. And then about a minute into his speech, which, by the way, only lasted about a minute or two. So, yeah, clearly not prioritizing this, about a minute or two to speak. He says, this is not a moment for politics. It's a moment for moral clarity.
Oh, wow.
If it's not a moment for politics, then why have you treated it so politically? Here's the sad part. The press will let him get away with this. If Donald Trump had delivered those exact same remarks in the exact same timeline, the White House press briefing room would be at a fever pitch. I would be yelled at. He would be yelled at. We would be asked, do you denounce the support from any anti-Semitic protester? And unless we denounced every young person in the country, that wouldn't be enough. And then we would be asked, will you pull their student loans? If we didn't answer, there would be a ferocious roar from the White House press corps. As Donald Trump said, Joe Biden is the moral authority for this country. Has he acted like it? No. He's led from behind. The former president has been the moral authority on this issue, not the current one.
Can I just add one quick thing, which is that the old phrase, actions speak louder than words. We heard good words. I thought they were good words from the president, but where are the actions? Yesterday, we heard not only good words from the mayor of New York, but he had action the night before. So he delivered something in addition to his comments, two very different presentations of that side of the story.
So what people would ask then, what would the equivalent be to what Eric Adams did and what the president could have done? This FBI has said, and that's what you and the former president were pointing to, that, you know, hate crimes, particularly among white supremacists, were the thing that they were really focusing on, right? They hate Jews too, so they say. I mean, that's what the signage is. Where's the FBI? I thought they were going to defend against anti-Semitism. Only when it's...
Congress should bring the FBI.
I mean, so the president could have called for that too. And on a re-ask, maybe he would have gotten that question. But when you walk away on your heels, bye-bye, Biden. What do we call it? It's a game? Where in the world
where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Joseph Robinette Biden.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.